Here's your host, Daren Wendell.
Oh, welcome, you fish freaks. Welcome to episode number 67 of the KFO show, Kayak Fishing Obsessed, brought to you by the Wendell Fishing YouTube channel. If you haven't been there, I am doubling down like 2-3 videos a week. It's crazy. Got over 1,200 videos, daily shorts, daily community posts, bi-weekly podcast during the summer. I got fishing to do, folks, and 1 or 2 videos a week. So if you haven't checked that out, head over to @Wendell Fishing. If you're not on YouTube, not a problem. I started a group over on Facebook called Kayak Fishing Freaks. I would love for you to be a part of that. We're growing at like 2,000 members a month right now, which is just insanity. So pretty pumped about that. I wanted to share my screen here. I'm going to give you guys a Knucklehead update, which I am pretty excited about. All right, let's head over here to old Fishing Chaos. So for those of you who are new, the Knucklehead Challenge is basically 4 one-month tournaments. And if you win one of those tournaments, you win a spot on my team. And we are going to be traveling down to Lake Gunnersville in October to fish off against Chad Hoover, Fluke Master, Rudd, Gramps, and just so many other teams. So pretty excited about that. And this is the old Team Wendell leaderboard. So last month, I want to give a shout out to Seth Taylor, put up 5 bass, monster bass for 109.25 inches, which is just insane. A 24.5, a 23, and all the rest were 20.5 and 20.75. So he is on the team. We were going to bring in the heat. That's a good start, folks. Really good start. All right, let's take a look at Team Wendell for June. We are 11 days in. I am leading the pack, even though I don't count. I'm just fishing with the team. 90.5 inches. Putting up some 18s, 19s, top 3. I need to upgrade my bottom 2. I got a 17 and a 16 there. Mark Poeth coming in at 79 inches. All 13s to 17s inches. And then Austin Matthews from Alabama at 75.25. But this is what you got to watch out for. You got a sleeper in here. I don't think anybody sees because you got to scroll down a little bit. All the way in 6th place is my former team member who won it with me last year, Tammy Sanchez. And as you can see here, if you're listening in, she's only posting bass over 18 inches, right? So she has 3, 18.75, 19.25, and 19.5. And so that's some confidence, right? When you're like, hey, I'm only going to post north of 18. So I have a feeling that Tammy's going to be a contender for first for this June. So I'm excited about that. It'd be great to have a former team member on the team. But back to the show, folks. I'm excited because we have Double T Fishing Rick on, and this is an interactive show. So if you got questions, but the theme of the night show is going to be around how to read your fish finder, really breaking it down. We're going to geek out on it. So I'm excited about that. So let's welcome Rick, Double T Fishing, to the show. Welcome, brother.
Hey, Darren. How's it going?
It's going good. I was out fishing before work this morning. Didn't put any bass on the board, but, man, it was beautiful. It was beautiful out this morning, so I can't complain. How about you?
We're just getting a whole lot of wind here lately, a lot of thunderstorms, which is pretty typical here in the Texas Panhandle. So fishing, about all you can do is in the morning. The afternoons are shot.
How hot's it get?
But I've been catching a few.
All right. How hot's it get down there?
Oops, lost us there.
Oh, I asked. Sorry, we're having some technical difficulty. Sorry about that. How hot is it getting down there for you?
It hasn't been bad. We hit 100 a couple of times is all, but it's been staying in the 80s. So weather's been pretty good other than the wind.
Heck yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about your journey. What got you on YouTube? Because this is interesting, everybody. Rick's retired. I'm sure about that a little bit. He owns a kayak. We'll let him share about that. He boat marshaled for the 2021 Bassmaster Classic, and he's got a monthly fishing newsletter. And so where do we start? So retired is what you're doing right now is just fishing nonstop? Because that's what I would be doing if I was retired.
Oh, I'm doing a lot of golfing too. Yeah,
All right.
I love golf, so kind of splitting those duties up. But yeah, about 4 years ago, I haven't been on YouTube quite 4 years. About 4 years ago, I started thinking about kind of leaving a legacy, I guess
Mhm.
you would say. And I started posting some videos, and I wanted to do them about fishing. And I only have just a small boat. I got a little bass tracker, and I put a Garmin unit on it, and I posted just a video about how to operate it. And it was really bad. It was a horrible video, but just took off. And 3.5 years later, doing pretty good with that. In the middle, kind of about a year after I had the YouTube channel, I went ahead and started this newsletter so I could send out setting sheets for Garmin Echo Map units.
Okay.
And that's grown up to about 5,000 subscribers now. And just kind of motored along with the channel.
It's going to be 5,001 by the end of the night because I
Yeah.
need a good old setting sheet for my Garmin UHD 92 SB, which is what I own. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about I was really curious when you said this. Boat marshaling for the Bassmaster Classic.
Oh, now that was cool.
Walk us through what was cool about it, because I haven't never talked to anybody who's ever done that before. So you're first.
Yeah, being a marshal, it was a 2021. It was on Lake Ray Roberts, and day one actually was just a media day, and that was pretty cool. We got to just hang around with the anglers. They had all the boats there on display, and the anglers and all the media going up and talking to everybody. And that was a pretty fun day. But you get up at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and probably the hardest thing about being a marshal is you've got to launch and load their boats.
What?
And so you're jumping in a truck you have never been in before. And fishermen they're pigs. I mean, there's stuff all over, rods sticking out, and the parking lots are super tight. And
Right.
like I say, I've got a small boat, so I'm trying to wheel this big old boat around there, and Scott Canterbury has a dent in his trailer. I hope he never found it, but
Oopsie.
but yeah. So anyway, the anglers are pretty cool. I went to one in Orange, Texas, before the Classic, and my very first angler, and I won't mention his name, but he was pretty rough. He was rough to be with all day. I accidentally dropped one of the it's getting the soda out.
Yeah.
And I accidentally let that drop, and I thought he was going to come uncorked on me.
Oh,
But,
really?
But every other angler I was with Corey Johnston, Scott, Brandon Cobb, quite a few people, and they were always just really nice. But hitting 70 miles an hour in those boats, going down like a river and stuff, you get really wet.
70.
It's pretty crazy, but
That
they
is
know what they're doing.
cruising.
Yeah, that is.
You would think
But
you want to be
anyway,
friends with your boat marshal, right?
What's that?
I don't know about you, but I would think I would want to be friends with my boat marshal. I wouldn't want to make the boat marshal irritated at me, right?
Yeah, they're not too worried about it. Corey Johnston was really nice. He just, I asked him, I said, where do you want me to stand on the boat? Because, when they're landing a fish, you kind of got to stay out of their way. So you talk about that right up front about, where do you want me? Do you want me in the back? Do you want me in the front? Corey was like, don't worry about it. Most of the others, they preferred I just kind of stayed towards the back of the boat.
Sure.
But yeah, they're real nice. A lot of them were real chatty.
Huh.
And
right.
just had a good time, but it's a long day. It is. It's a long day. When you get off that boat at night, even though it's only 8 hours, because you're just going from spot to spot. And when they tell you we're going to move, you better be, putting that life jacket on and buckling up, because it takes them about 1.2 seconds to go ahead and fire that thing up, put their life jacket on, and hit it full throttle.
Oh wow,
So, I
they ain't
mean,
messing
these
around.
guys are line in the water. They're very good at what they do.
Wow. What is one thing as being a boat marshal that you were like, that I did not expect that being with pros?
Um, I would say probably how accurate they are.
Oh,
When they're casting, because I was sitting there with the GoPro, I've got a ton of footage on these different anglers and just how accurate that they cast and pitch.
okay.
I mean, they will pick apart a brush. They'll pick apart a tree. I mean, it's pretty crazy, and they're doing this all while their trolling motor's on 5 or 6. They'll throw 3 times at one structure as you're just kind of cruising by,
Oh
and
wow.
just the accuracy. I did not realize how accurate those guys actually were.
Huh. I love it.
Um,
All right. Well, I brought you on because I have this conversation a lot with individuals, and what ends up happening is people get really excited, like, "Oh, I need a fish finder. Awesome, gonna go get a fish finder." And then they gotta get wrapped up into watching all the YouTube videos and fish finders, and they end up getting a pretty nice one, right? They're not
mhm.
by the
Yep.
time you get your batteries and stuff, it's not cheap. And then what ends up happening is that they don't never take the time to really learn it. It can be semi complicated, and so they end up using it as I'm just going to use it as I'm going to measure the depth, and I can see some structure down below. Maybe it's going to tell me the time and how fast I'm going, and that's how it's going to be. And
Right.
they get way underutilized. And
Oh,
so
they do.
I am curious, what are the top 5 questions or issues that people have with their fish finder? Well, first let's do this. What's the number one question you get? And then let's pick apart the next 4 that you typically also get.
The number one question, because I deal only with Garmin units, number one question is I mark a waypoint and I can't find it. So because Garmin, they did a disservice. They put what's called a mark button on the menu. And
Right.
if you hit that mark button, and it's good, like when you first leave, if you're on a new lake and you're taking off from the boat ramp, hit that mark button. That way you always know, you can always get back to the ramp.
Yeah.
But that's all it does is mark the boat position. There's a whole sequence that you got to go through to actually mark a waypoint for a piece of underwater structure.
Mm.
You got to pause the screen, then you got to move the crosshairs, and then you got to hit a teardrop. And so that's probably the biggest question. That was the reason I put up that last video I did. I had an older one that was about 3 years old, and I thought, I'm a lot better with my camera now. My videos are a lot better, so I went ahead and remade that video,
Yeah.
and it's doing really well.
Awesome.
But let's see.
I don't
Other
know
questions?
if I knew that. You have the mark button. It's really only good.
Yeah,
Which is crazy because it takes up a lot of real estate on the front of that Garmin unit for it to
it does.
only do that function.
Yeah. And you can actually there's even a setting in there where you can show and hide that bottom menu and get about another half-inch of viewing area on there. It's called show hide. It's in the main menu there. And that's the reason that I was getting so many questions, and what I was having to do was run out to my shop, because I've got one fish finder that just sits there in my studio, and I'd have to run out to my shop, fire it up, and look for those settings for people. And
Mm.
I thought, you know what? So I sat down with an Excel spreadsheet and I made it up. So now I just got these spreadsheets. You can't see them very well, but I've got highlights on things that I would change, for my type of fishing. And
Ooh, we're gonna get that in a little bit because you just can't get that. You got to sign up for your newsletter, right, in order to get that. Correct?
yeah, or you could just email me.
Oh, you're too nice.
I
Come on,
I
gatekeep that. That's some juice.
I don't know. I estimate that probably around, because I can see where people have shared it quite a bit. Every once in a while, somebody will pop up and they'll say, "Hey, this other YouTuber, I think he stole your spreadsheet." And I said, "It's free. I don't have anything on it. It's not stealing. I give it away. I'm not
Right?
charging anything for it."
Look at you. I love it. It's that Texas hospitality. I love it.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it.
Well, I like helping people, and this is, one thing about fishermen is they are the nicest audience.
Mm.
Very seldom do I ever get any kind of heckler, or when I do say something wrong on a video, which believe me, I have. I know you never have, Darren.
No, and never. And the YouTube community never calls me out on it either. It's really weird.
No, they would never do that. But they do it so nicely, So I really like the fishermen.
You got nicer friends than I do. I'll tell you that right now. I don't know who's watching your videos, but they're not the same people watching mine.
But I guess moving along, the number 2 question I get a lot is on the screen overlays and appearance.
Okay.
I think because you can watch the videos and you can kind of dial your unit in, but the overlays, like you were talking about earlier, how much real estate that all that stuff takes up is they don't give you as many options anymore. Through the revisions over the last 3 years, they kind of locked that in. There's not a whole lot you can do with that anymore. Okay. And those are questions I just have to say, hey, sorry, and call Garmin, and they have a complaint hotline. Okay. And you can that's how a lot of things get changed, believe it or not.
So back it out a little bit. Overlays. What do you walk for someone who's new to fish finders?
Okay.
What's overlays?
The overlays, like where it shows your speed, temperature, depth, all that kind of stuff. You can show and hide some of those options. Okay. You can't do a whole lot with it, but you can do some. All right. And also, like if you build a combo screen, kind of like I'm looking at here, where I can see you, I can see me, and you'll build a combo screen with say 3 or 4 different. You may have maps on one, clear view on one, traditional, and side view, and that way you can take and just reach up. Let's see, I'd have to do it here. Reach up and just push one, right? And it will come up full screen. And then you can just hit the back button. It'll go back to the combo screen. And that's a very useful tool that I don't think a lot of people utilize.
My Chaotic Fishing, who was on the show, by the way. It's been a while, but you can go back into the depths and see the show with him. But he says, I completely agree with Rick. I wish they'd open it up and allow us to customize the temps, voltage depths, etc. So right on. If you guys have any questions as we're talking, go ahead and throw these up there. Try to put like question in big letters so I can identify as a question, because sometimes this thing gets rock and roll. We got 50 plus people on right now live. And so to help me identify it, throw that out there. What are some other questions you get? Most common questions?
Oh, let's see. Depth shading is a big one. So
yeah.
Because that really is a useful tool. And the one thing we'll geek out here for a second on maps. Okay?
If you got the maps, it's exciting, right? If you have the 92 SV, not very exciting unless you want to map your own lakes.
Yeah. But if you have the maps, the depth shading, because as well as anybody, when you're bass fishing, depending on the season, you might be targeting a certain depth that those fish are hanging in. Mm-hmm. And if you have your depth shading turned on, you could quickly kind of look around you and see what other areas have that same depth and where it's at.
Yeah.
And you can kind of target in on those. But what Garmin did when they merged with Navionics, some of the lakes, the way they're mapped, they will not show depth shading. And it must be quite a few lakes, because I get a lot of questions. And there are just some lakes that the depth shading will not work on.
That's frustrating.
And I feel really bad, but I get a lot of questions on that, and I'm sure Garmin does too, and Navionics.
Yeah. So if you don't have a Garmin, what we're referring to is that you can go into the settings and you can actually set your own depths, and then you can color shade those. So if you're looking at your map, you can do it in intervals, I think, as low as a foot. And if you're in deeper water, you can go higher. And so you're like, hey, all the bass are hitting at 3 to 5 feet. You can go in there, set the settings, and then you can see the entire lake. And you can just troll the contours of the lake that have that depth, because the bass are holding there. And so it's a really neat
do the opposite. You can put a color for the deeper water and follow the channels.
Oh, there you go. See?
Yeah.
Not a lot of
I
people
use it for that sometimes.
And so this is interesting because on the Garmin units, if you get they almost sell it in code, right? I have a Garmin UHD ultra high definition 92. 9 is the screen size, 2 is the maps that it comes with, SV, which is side view. So if you don't pick up that the 2 means you don't get the maps, you're gonna end up spending an extra $100 buying the maps. Inland, they got all kinds of different types of maps out there. But nonetheless, just know that if you're looking at a fish finder right now, if you get the 92, you're going to be like, hey, I got a deal. It's cheaper. Well, it's only cheaper because it didn't come with the maps. And you're not going to be able to do depth shading, even though you can actually map your own lake, but it takes a bunch of time. And it's okay. It's okay.
Now, the nice thing when you get an Ultra Series or when you get a UHD 2 unit, the newer units that came out, they come with all the inland waterways and the inland lakes.
Oh, so that was a question.
You get the coastal waters and the lakes on those units. Otherwise, like the old 93 SVs, just a regular UHD, that you're just going to get the inland lakes. When you get down towards the coast, you're not going to get any of the waterways.
So does that answer entirely the question I'm getting from Bassel, New Hampshire? Is the UHD 2 worth the money over the regular UHD?
You know, and one thing I worry about is that Garmin is going to make the old UHD obsolete. I don't know whether they will or not. I asked them that question directly, and they said, no, we have so many units in the stores that we will probably continue making those. The UHD 2, the attraction to it is the Wi-Fi networking. So if you have a Garmin Force trolling motor or the Force Kraken trolling motor, either one, you know, you could just Wi-Fi connect to those. You can Wi-Fi connect, I believe, to Mercury engines. And so that is the main draw to the UHD 2. Now, unfortunately, the sheets in my settings, they won't work with the UHD 2 because they're more along the lines of the file formatting of a GS map series. So anyway, went a little too deep on that.
No, there's no too deep on this show. People
but
come to go deep.
UHD 2, is it worth more from the imaging standpoint? It does have a higher resolution, more pixels on the screen, and you will get an upgraded image. There's no doubt about it. But $1,200 versus $700 is a pretty steep curve.
Sure. In the context of kayak fishing, having it hooked up to your Mercury is probably not an option.
Yeah, that's true.
Got another question for you here. Let me see. I got a bunch of questions comes in. Let me see. Yep. Someone else said Wi-Fi and resolution. I only use it to scope. Otherwise, I'm a bird guy. Interesting. Here's a question from Smoke 74 Fishing. I have the 94 SV, but it doesn't have some of the lakes I fish in Pennsylvania. Do I need a maps upgrade? Is that his issue?
Yes.
All right.
The 4 indicates that you're going to get the coastal waterways. So you've got to buy, and the new maps, the Navionics Plus, you can get that on sale every once in a while for about $149. But you have to buy which region of the United States that you want. They've got it separated into 4 different regions.
Got it. So for a recap, everybody, if you're listening in, 92, no maps, 93, inland, 94, coastal. Is there a combo?
Yes. When you buy the UHD 2, you get both.
You get both.
Yeah. And the Ultra Series comes with both.
Okay.
They come loaded up with both.
All right, let's move on to some of the other questions you get. The most common. We'll answer the most common questions that you field all the time.
Let's see. Another one that's real common is people want to just look at on the side view. They want to just look at the left side or just look at the right side
Oh yeah.
instead of looking at both sides at the same time. And they want to know where that setting is.
Yep.
And that is actually just in the side view menu, and it's view selection, and you can pick left or right. Or I know that wouldn't do this on a kayak, but on a pontoon boat, you may have the unit facing the opposite way. You can flip your left and right and which way they show.
Okay.
So I get that question actually a lot.
I've used that recently because that who cares what's going on the left? I'm just want to see I want the most screen to see what's happening between me and the shore. And so, yeah, it's interesting. And then of course you have 4 different options where you can save those. If I particularly like casting to the left, I have a way I like to run a shoreline. I don't like running it with my right side of the shore. I always like fishing with my left. I don't know. It's personal preference. Anybody else out there like that? It just seems off for me if I'm going the opposite direction. But that's just me. All right. Bart Foster says, anybody else watching while fishing? I love it, Bart. So let us know. Let us know if you are out there and you slay one while listening to the show. So I love it.
So one thing I would like that I'm kind of interested your viewers may actually pipe in map orientation, because a lot of people will email me or put in the comments of my videos and they'll say, how do you keep the maps from spinning around? It's driving me crazy. It's making me dizzy. And, because, when you're turning around trying to come back to a waypoint or something like that, and the maps just spin all over the place.
Oh,
and I personally,
like a chart you're using? Is that what you're talking about? The chart?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like if you set a map on a brush pile or something and you want to go back to it, when you turn around, that map starts flipping around on you all over the place.
Okay. I don't fish places. I don't really use a chart because the lakes I fish aren't that big. And so I typically know where I'm at all times, but that's interesting. If anybody has any insight on that, it'd be good to know.
Yeah, because I set mine to course up, and it seems to stabilize it a little bit. But you got north up or, heading up and different things. And that was one of my first questions when I got a fish finder was, how do I keep these things from spinning around so much?
Right. All right.
That's pretty neat.
North up always, says New England Angler. JD America said north up and bow up. No, versus bow up. The age-old question. Right on.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on a little bit. I would imagine you get the question, how do I read my fish finder? Right. And so I'm sure this is a loaded question because everyone's coming with a different degree and varying degree of understanding of what they're looking at. But if you had to share with a beginner, hey, this is how sonar cones work. This is how, when you're looking at your screen, what you're looking at. When you see this is what you're seeing. When you see this is what you're seeing. Break it down like I'm a complete idiot and about what you would tell someone who's like, hey, I'm brand new. For some reason, I bought a really expensive UHD 92 SV. How do I read this crazy thing?
Well, if you're brand new, and what I tell everybody is the best thing you can do is set up a simple 2-screen combo and put traditional on one side and put clear view on the other. And the reason for that is traditional, we're all kind of used to, and it shows a lot of information and it shows a lot of colors, where the clear view really doesn't. It just shows dots, right? So what you do is the traditional will send you down rabbit holes all the time. You may have, a school of shad running around just driving you crazy, and you're throwing a 4-inch crankbait at them, but you don't know any better because all you're doing, you're seeing dots.
Right.
So the dots versus arches is probably a good video to watch on that. But basically what I'm saying is, if you don't have at least 2 colors on your traditional, it's probably not a game fish. In other words, like mine, I got set up if I see yellow and red in the same, even if it's not an arch, that tells me that that's something a little bit bigger. Now, when you look at clear view, when you're looking at clear view, all you're going to see is a dot. That's it. You're not going to have any idea. So it's time on water. You have to figure out what species you're after and how they react. Like a crappie. Crappie will stack vertically, right?
Right.
I think we've all seen that where you got crappie and they're just in a vertical, almost looks like a tree.
Yep.
Whereas bass, for me, when I'm looking on side view or clear view, and not so much on side view, but I can see them on clear view well, they'll be hanging out around ledges suspended. And on my traditional, I'll be able to tell because of the colors in the arches. But in the clear view, you really can't tell. So you have to know where your species is hanging out. Now, the reason that traditional and side view and clear view are so much different is the cone angles. In traditional, you have a regular pyramid type cone. So you're looking at a circle on the bottom. Now, on clear view and side view, I like to tell people it's like a Xerox machine. And it's taking little slivers and projecting those on the screen. That's why you don't see any arches in clear view or side view. You see dots.
Right.
Yeah, because it's a much smaller area that you're looking at. You're just looking at a narrow area, and it's just taking and stitching those images together. So, and that another question I get quite often is I'll have that combo screen on, and it'll say I can see, like, if I got two different transducers on, I'm reverting back to a boat. Yep. I got a transducer on the front and a transducer on the back. I got one showing traditional, one showing clear view. I can see the fish on one and not the other. It's because of the difference in the cones.
Interesting. So what you're recommending here to train your brain to understand where you were fishing, you were saying put up traditional next to your clear view. Yep.
Yes.
And that way you can kind of train. And if you see red and yellow, likely a larger fish. Now, can you play that game also by doing the sizes where you can mark sizes on your Garmin?
That gets tough. That really is time on water. Like I can tell the size just because I've been doing it quite a few years, but depending on the depth that you're at, if you're fishing in 40 foot of water, those arches are going to be, much smaller than they are if you're in 5 foot of water. So trying to gauge the actual size, like length, is pretty tough. And then of course on clear view, you're not going to be able to, because you're only just going to be getting, one dot.
Right. So for those who may be really new to Garmin units, explain clear view and their language for imaging.
Well, the clear view and the side view are what they call ultra high definition imaging. And basically, to be honest with you, what I feel they're very good at is identifying what a rock looks like, what a bush looks like. I've actually got a thumbnail on one of my videos where I just happened to be just going over a small little, like a tree that was submerged because we had a lot of water. And it is like almost a picture.
Oh, wow.
If you have your scroll speed set right and all your imaging, your brightness and contrast set right, you can really see what is down there. And you can see those dots, like the fish, you can look in a brush pile and you can see those dots in there.
That's wild.
Whereas in traditional, you really can't. Traditional, every once in a while, you'll be able to see like an arch in the middle of a piece of brush or something, and that there's a fish hanging out in there. But that's really hard to do in traditional, where in clear view, you can actually see the separation. You can see the separation between a limb or a leaf and a fish. And a lot of times those you can kind of gauge a little better how big the fish are, how many there are.
Right on. I got Low Life Angler says, I thought I saw my rod laying on the bottom that I just dropped. Oh, bummer, man. I have yet to drop a rod in the water. Now, granted, watch, I'll do it tomorrow. But I have dropped a GoPro. It ripped off and fell in the water. So been tethering those recently. Yeah, those are just expensive as a rod and reel. It's funny.
Actually,
Bart,
my newsletter, I have last month, as a matter of fact, the guy sent me a picture of a bulldozer that was sitting on the bottom of the water.
oh,
I got
that's
several
cool.
pictures of boats, that have sunk that are in the bottom of the water. And yeah, you get some really cool imaging with clear view and side view.
Oh, heck yeah. I would love to be like you, the guy who does like, hey, known for fish finders, that everyone sends you all that stuff. That would be freaking awesome.
Yeah, we
Bart
have
Foster,
a lot of
folks,
fun with that.
another 16-incher. They're right up in the whitewater. He is listening right now, slaying fish. I I just love that, by the way. Love it. I think low life. Are you fishing too? He said I had a 16 jump off and flew right beside the yak. We got multiple people fishing right now. That's just beautiful. Beautiful. All right.
That's great.
So
It won't be too many years. You'll be able to sit here and watch the podcast on your fish finder, right?
oh yeah, please.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
I don't think it'll be very long. You'll be able to stream. They've got a lot of media functions on them now where you can answer your phone or text or something like that. But they don't have speakers and mics on them yet.
That it'll just get to the point. Hopefully someday I get to go full time at this. And it'll get to the point where I'm just doing the show from the water. That'd be fun.
Well, there you go.
I'd be game. I'd be game with that.
Yeah.
All right. So this is what I'd love for you to do. That setting sheet, one, in order to get it, you can sign up for your how often do you kick out a newsletter?
Once a month.
Okay, right
Yeah,
on.
I try not to bombard everybody's inbox.
Yeah. And so if you were like, hey, I'm having a hard time dialing in my settings, what I'd love for you to do is just share a little snippet of what's on that setting sheet. And as you're going through it, if you don't mind, would you be able to share with us why? Like, if you have the setting, this is why I would do that. And I'd love to go through kind of the colors that you use and the settings, and all the different things that Garmin units have available to us, and how and why you would do that.
Well, we talked a little bit about map orientation. Now, the first thing with Garmin units anyway is they want to have your contrast, brightness, and gain. They want to have that automatic. And you can go auto, medium, low, or high. Get away from that. Throw all that away. Put it in manual. And it's kind of a pain in the butt because you got to do it every time you go out on the water.
You can't save it?
You
can't save it?
No, it won't let you say it. As a matter of fact, every time you get out of a sonar screen, your brightness reverts back to auto. So you have to go ahead and reset that. Now, that was actually my first viral video, or viral for me anyway, was I showed people how to put that on the touch screen so you didn't have to go back in the menu. It's up there on your screen and you can just tap it up.
Oh, nice.
But throw all that away. You'll get a much better image, setting your contrast and your brightness in the mid 80s to 90s. And your contrast, normally you only have to set once a day. And your brightness, as the sun shines differently on it, you got to change your brightness. But you can really dial that image in that way. But get away from auto and set those up manually.
So you're going to get what you're looking for here is clarity of image by doing all these settings.
Yes. Got it. Yeah, well, what you're looking for is, especially on, say, Clearview, you want those dots to pop. You want to be able to see those dots. If the brightness and the contrast are too low, the dots are there, but you can't see them until you turn that brightness and contrast up, and then all of a sudden they just start glowing at you. And it really helps out. And side view is the same way. If you're on a shell bed or something like that, and you want to see if there's fish in there, you got to really crank those up. Let's see what else we got here. Screen controls, I mentioned that. For GPS accuracy, you want to go ahead and turn your it's WAAS and EGNOS. You want to go ahead and turn those satellites on so you have more satellites pinging into your unit and triangulating.
Is that
again? That's not so
they're
much
not default?
for kayakers. What's that?
Well, some people.
No, the default is off.
Why would they
go in and
turn
those
that?
on?
Doesn't make any sense to
I'm
me.
not real sure. I never have asked the Garmin folks about that.
I mean, it'll probably burn more, maybe burn battery. I don't know if it's trying to connect multiple
Yeah,
satellites,
yeah,
but
it would use a little more battery, I would assume.
huh. Okay.
But not, I mean, it would be very negligible, I would think.
You would think.
Yeah. I like to turn on what are called heading lines and angle markers. And
Okay.
that's something that very few videos you ever see that. And the heading line will actually kind of point which direction you're going. And you have to be moving a little bit. If you're stagnant, it'll roam all over the place
Okay.
if you don't have a heading sensor, which is a separate piece of equipment. You wouldn't need it for a kayak. But anyway, what that does is you can set it up to say 80 feet out. And so when you're coming up to a waypoint, a rock, a brush, something like that, that you can see on your map, you can see how far out you are from that. So
Oh,
you can
okay.
stay away from it a little bit, right?
So you
If
don't
you're
run over
fishing
your
5
hole.
foot of water, you
Right.
don't climb right up on it and then have to back off. And the
It's almost like
angle markers kind of give you that distance all the way around it. So if you want to set it to, I set mine to about 80 foot. You can go ahead and do that. And I don't see very many people ever talk about that.
so it's a
That's
count. It's a proximity countdown.
Yeah,
Nice.
basically it is.
Interesting. All right. I did not know about that one. So I'm learning tonight as well. I like it.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't share my screen, can I?
You I think you might be. If you go down to present, do you see a present button?
Let me see. I had to take my glasses off because it's distracting, the glare on. Let me put my glasses back on here. Leave stop settings.
Should be down where it says leave
No.
studio. You might not have the option
I don't think I have
to
it.
do it.
Anyway, that's all right because you guys are gonna join the newsletter and then
Come
you'll
on.
have it.
How does
Right,
someone
right.
real quick, in case I forget, how does someone like
Okay,
do
so
that?
one of the biggest problems, I don't get asked about it. I get questions not about it, but they wonder why is my image? It just looks like gobbledygook. And 9 times out of 10 on side view, it's going to be because you have your zoom functions turned on. Don't, unless you're really good with, like if you're a beginner, don't play with the zoom functions. Sorry, getting over a little cold here.
Oh, sorry.
Don't play with any zoom functions except for the magnify.
Okay.
Now, the magnify, what that'll do is it'll give you a square box right in the middle of your screen.
And you can move it.
And you can take and move that thing around. And if it's distracting, you can just pinch it off. And if you want to back up, just pull it right back up. Just pinch out like that. And that is really handy. Like we were talking about in brush piles, if you want to see if there's any separation from the dots to the limbs, you can pull that zoom box up and put it in there. But a lot of those zoom functions, especially in side view, they just do not work well.
Huh.
I don't like them. I just use that magnify box is all I ever use.
There you go. I like it. All right. So we talked about why not use mark. What would you say is the most underutilized fish finder setting? You might have talked about it already, but maybe one that we haven't talked about yet.
Scroll speed.
Okay, let's talk
Scroll
about that.
speed is very underutilized. Now, under normal conditions, you're just going to leave it in auto because it is vital. And I did a video on that, and it could take, like, say, a rock that's sitting down there. If your scroll speed is too slow, it'll look like it's nothing. It's just a sliver. And if your scroll speed is too fast, it'll make it look like it's a ledge, right?
Right.
So depending on your speed, you really need to dial that in. So I know a lot of people, they'll take and like if I'm really just kind of beating the bank and I got it, I'm moving along pretty good. I'll go ahead and turn it up to say 5. And a lot of times, other than that, like if I'm just moping around, I'll play with it on 1 or 2, but I think it's underutilized Leave it in auto. Definitely, if you're not really wanting to play with it a lot, leave it in auto.
Right.
But it is something that can clear up your definition a little bit if you play with that scroll speed. And
So
you kayakers who might do a little bit of trolling if you got a motor on there, as you're going down through an area, play around with that scroll speed a little bit. And sometimes that'll sharpen that image up.
okay. Yeah, I get a lot of people reaching out, like they see my videos and they see my Garmin. They're like, I cannot get my Garmin to get that view. Now I've done a bunch of research on it. Now, granted, I don't have the magic sheet that you're offering. But real quick, we never answered this. How does someone sign up for your newsletter? Where would they do that through?
The easiest way to do it is to just pull up one of my videos, any of them basically in the last year, and go down in the description. It'll say newsletter sign up sheet.
There you have it,
And
folks.
all I need, I don't need, all I ask for is your first name and your email address. And the only reason I ask for the first name is because it'll go into your junk email if it doesn't have a first name on it.
All right.
And there's not even ads on the newsletter. I mean, I'm making virtually nothing on that.
Well, we appreciate it. It's a labor of love over here in the fishing community.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you. For those who are wanting to buy a unit, what are some things to look out for, right? Because you might think you have a deal sitting in front of you, but you actually don't, because one, you didn't realize that it came or did not come with maps, or another one is the quality of the transducer. So is there anything else that consumers should be looking out for? Because I swear these companies write in code on purpose.
No, they do.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the UHD2s, there may still be a few out on the market. I did a video on that. When the UHD2 first came out, it was an economy model chart plotter. In other words, it was a basically a striker unit with maps on it, and that's all it was. It wasn't high resolution. It was not a good deal. And less than 8 months later, they turned it into what it is now. As a matter of fact, I ended up having to pull that video down because it's probably the only negative video I've ever done. But it made me so mad when I looked at the features of the original UHD2. Because it not that it wasn't worth the money, but it was basically just a striker, which is a fish finder with no maps, and they put maps on it. But it didn't have a touch screen. It didn't have a quality transducer. So if you find those out there, if you see a UHD2 that's like $400 or $500, I'd stay away from it. It's not worth it.
Did you say it wasn't ultra high definition?
No, it wasn't, unless you bought a different transducer. It was capable. It was capable.
It's like calling it a live scope unit,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head. So when you go to Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, West Marine, any of these who are selling the UHD2 Echo maps for like $699. So the difference is you're getting the older transducer, the UHD or the GT54 transducer, which is very capable. That's actually what I use. I haven't upgraded to the GT56 yet,
Okay.
but the GT56 is more capable. Of course, it's quite a bit longer unit too, which is a bit of a hassle on a kayak. But for a kayak, I would think a GT54 would be just fine. It's not quite as. What's that?
Mine's a 56. It is longer. However, on my Bonafide P127, it actually has a transducer puck, and the kayak is actually designed for a transducer that's protected by the pontoon style hull, and it's stuck up right there. It's like perfect. And so I never really think about it and never get scratched up, and the length doesn't matter on my kayak. But if you're throwing that thing off the side on a switchblade or any other place, it's a big one.
Yeah, I got a Bonafide SS127, and basically all I did, I took the center pod out,
Yeah.
And I mounted the transducer up underneath it, put batteries on the inside, and the fish finder on top of it. So I just pull it out and go charge the whole thing when I'm done. It ended up being real nice. I got that
Nice.
off a Fluke Master
All
video.
right,
He showed
Gene.
me how to do that. Yeah.
You know what I was thinking? I didn't get Gene on the show. I don't think he's ever been on the show, which is just mind-boggling. So I need to change that up. Lost in Tackle said, question, Garmin 4. Is there any way to update it? Mine turned out to be a plus transducer. So I have no clue what this question actually means, but you probably would, Rick. So help me out here.
A plus transducer. Oh, yeah. Okay. So what he has more than likely is it might not even be a GT. It might be the old HW, what was it? HWTM 52.
Okay.
And that was not a high definition, and it wasn't very powerful. It was only, I think, 350 watts is all the power that particular transducer had. Again, very capable, but that's where you get the difference between ultra high definition and just regular is the resolution of the fish finder, but it's also the transducer and how many megahertz or kilohertz the transducer can put out. Now, here's something else that your viewers may or may not know is the higher you set the frequency. So let's say a GT54 transducer will put out 1120 kilohertz on side view and clear view. What that does is it gives you a very defined image, but it comes at a price.
Smaller
It
area.
won't transmit out nearly as far.
Yeah.
So if you're wanting to go out 150 feet, you've got to turn that down to 455 kilohertz. If you go with the higher kilohertz, you'll find that it blacks out and it, you start seeing black all around it.
Right.
That means that you ran out of area.
Okay.
You got to turn that frequency down. So the higher the frequency, the less range you have. The lower the frequency, the more range you have.
All right, there you have it, folks. If you're wondering why it's blacking out,
Yeah,
so if it's
and
blacking
that'll
out,
happen a lot on side view.
right? And I see that a lot. I think I have mine out 70 feet, and so it starts blacking out at like 70 or 65 or so.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is, if I want that to be clear, I got to lower.
Yeah,
I have to lower
that down to 455.
Yep.
And generally, the way I fish is when I'm hunting and searching for structure, which is what I use the fish finder more than anything for, is to find structure under the water.
Right.
Is I go ahead and I'll set it out 100 feet and I'll put it on 455 kilohertz on the frequency, and then I can look out 120 feet.
Right.
Now, it's not quite as clear.
Right.
And then when I see something I really want to look at, I'll go ahead, set a waypoint, and then go back over it, but turn it up to the 1120 kilohertz.
Got it. So if you're searching structure, that's a really great way. Lower your hertz.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get more distance. If you want more defined, and you're only going 23 to 30 feet out, increase your hertz, and you'll get a more defined picture. All right. There you go.
Kind of a little backstory on why they went to the GT56 transducer was because it didn't have much range. Now, a GT56 transducer, your transducer will only go to 1,000 kilohertz.
Okay.
It won't go clear up to 1120. So what they did is they put more power into it. They lowered the kilohertz down so it has more range so it can read deeper.
All right.
So that's a little bit of the backstory on why they went to the GT56.
Interesting.
But for most of us bass fishermen, a GT54 is pretty capable.
Right on. Right on. Bassin with Big Malone says gain up high? Question mark.
He said what?
Gain up high. Do you recommend putting the gain up high?
Oh, until it starts getting fuzzy. That's a setting for the traditional. And I like a little bit of a fuzzy screen on traditional or even clear view. That way I know I'm picking up everything.
Yeah.
If you set the gain down too low, you're not going to see the fish. I've had my gain set down too low and actually been able to, like see little small bait fish on the side of the kayak, and they're not showing up. And I'll turn that gain up, and then you'll be able to see them. So I would always have it just a little bit on the grainy side, not much, because you don't want too much grain. But yeah, turn your gain up as high as you can without it being real grainy.
Okay. Here's something that was interesting I found out recently, because I've had my unit for about a year now. And for the first 6 months, I got it, hooked it up. I was like, all right, let's go. It was in the middle of fishing season, didn't want to take a lot of time. So when winter rolls around up here in Ohio, I have some more time to delve into figuring out the fish finder. And I was like, oh, well, it's got active captain. And I was like, oh, if I don't sign up for active captain, how in the world am I going to update this thing? And so I have a feeling there's a lot of units out there that haven't been updated for a long time because people haven't taken the necessary steps to get those updates. Help
you
paint a broader picture.
can. Okay, you can update it with Garmin Express.
Okay.
And basically what you're going to do is just take a blank SD card, and I go over that in several of my videos, and you're going to download the new update, and you just plug it into your unit, and it says, oh, I see an update software card. I'm going to update. Do you want to make this your new active captain card? And at that point, you can either do that or just plug your old card back into it, and it'll update through there. You can do it that way, and I prefer to do it that way if I'm just wanting to do an update.
Yep.
But here's the drawback. If you use Active Captain is going to store your waypoints, your tracks, and your routes offline.
Right.
In other words, if something happens to your unit and you drop it off the side of your boat, you have all of your user data. That's what they call all that, the user data. You have all that user data backed up in Active Captain. So I wouldn't necessarily suggest doing the updates through Active Captain, but I would recommend syncing up to Active Captain so you keep all your user data backed up. Right. And you can do that the other way. You can take your SD card and just open up File Explorer and keep a copy of that in there. You could do it that way as well. But the Active Captain, they're getting more and more. You might as well get used to using it if you're going to stay with Garmin.
Right.
One of the things with the Navionics Plus mapping that I have now is a lot of those functions on there, I have to have cell service, and I have to be Wi-Fi connected to my Active Captain app to use the relief shading and some of the other options that come with the new Navionics maps. Again, for kayakers, it's probably not as big an issue, but for boaters, it really is. And we rely a lot on those maps.
Two things here really quick, because what I found out whenever I was uploading Active Captain, if you have had your unit for a while and you're like, oh, I'm going to go upload Active Captain, keep in mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I did some research on this. I think I'm right, is that it's gonna overwrite your card in that process. So if you have a bunch of waypoints, it's writing to the card, not the unit, right? So keep that in mind, because whenever I did the Active Captain thing, it wiped my card. So if I had if I actually had any waypoints on it, it would have wiped them out. Now I knew I didn't, but just it tells you that it's going to do it, but keep that in mind. Now, was I correct on it's writing to your card? So if you take your card out, those waypoints aren't stored in your chart plotter. It's on your card, correct?
Right. Yeah. The user data is stored on the card.
Yeah. Yes. So keep that in mind. Don't make a mistake and take that out and accidentally delete it thinking that it's also on your chart plotter. It is not. So just a few little nuances there.
And another thing, if you're networking, again, this is if you guys are kayaks, but if you have two units and you have them networked together, you should only have one card, one SD card in one of the units.
Oh, interesting.
Otherwise, it won't transfer the waypoints properly.
Interesting. I like it.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned this at the beginning of the show, but Mikey Grizz 23 had a question. He said, I've been trying to get my depth shading working properly, still not working right. And you made mention earlier in the show what might be his problem.
Yeah, it could be that when Navionics or wherever Garmin bought that data for that lake to get the contour maps, if it wasn't done a certain way, the relief shading will not show up on that lake.
So,
and that could be what he's experiencing. And
yeah.
he can call Garmin and they can confirm whether it'll work on that lake or not.
So there you go. Hopefully a direction, and maybe it's not you, it's them, Mikey. All right. Let me see here. We're coming down to the end of our time. This is exciting. Make sure you update your Garmin. We've talked about appearance settings. I had a few people go over here to the comments. Let me see here. I start them. Michael S. says, done. Signed up for the newsletter. Good to go. New to bass fishing and using a fish finder. That is awesome.
Well, thank you, Michael.
Digs Outdoors. Just sub double T. I like it.
Boy.
I like it. All right. So let's finish up with a little fun game I like to do called Overrated, Underrated. Just to have some fun. This is where I really invite everybody else listening in as well. I want to hear your thoughts on this. 3 of them are fishing related. 2 of them are unrelated to fishing and just fun. Let's start with underrated, overrated. I was having a conversation with my buddy this past week. I told him I caught I think it was a 19. He said, what'd you catch it on? I was like, a swim jig. He's like, man, swim jigs are underrated. I was like, all right, I'll throw that in my overrated, underrated, see what everyone has to say about it. So, what are your thoughts, Rick, on swim jigs?
I think they're underrated.
Okay.
I love a swim jig. Use them all the time. On our lake, they work really good. So I'm going to say underrated.
I would say underrated as well. You don't see a lot of videos, a lot of fanfare, but man, they have been performing. And I'm doing a video come July because I basically just pull out my arsenal of 7 types of jigs out there and freaking go to town up here in Northeast Ohio. All right, let's see what else we got. Digs Outdoors, underrated. Bassin with Big Malone, underrated. Smoke 74 Fishing, underrated. Underrated by Rick, underrated by Daren. We got some. I believe we can officially say swim jigs are underrated. If you're not fishing jigs, and you're like, what the crap is a swim jig? Then you might want to go find some videos on it. Bass rafts that never landed a fish on a jig in my life. Should give it a try. It's addicting, Bass.
Yes.
It's addicting. That hook set, it's so juicy. When you have a big old fish and your pole just bends over and it doesn't move because the bass is so. Because a lot of times they want a big old freaking meal. I love it. Low life, underrated, black and blue. All right, let's move on. Next question. This is not fishing related. Overrated, underrated. Dollar Tree stores.
Overrated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walk me through your rationale.
Oh, just because we have a Dollar General in I live in a little bitty town.
Okay.
And it's nice, but you go in there and everything is twice as expensive as I could go to the next town over and get it. But yeah. And the stuff that is $1 is not worth 50 cents. Anyway, I think they're overrated.
All right. Here's the reason why it's a different life stage, right? I think they're kind of underrated because I have kids. And my kids always want to buy something anywhere they want to go. And
true.
So instead of going to Walmart and spending, $20 on something, I could satiate their desire for things. And you got $2, go get one thing. And they'll spend so long walking up and down the aisles. They'll have 6 things. Like, what do I want? And I feel like dad of the year. And so, but as a father, I love them. As what used to be a dollar store when things used to cost $1, and now they're like $1.25, $2, $3, $10. It's like, all right, it's the same crap. Anyways, all right, here we got. We got Smoke 74 overrated. Bassing with Big Malone. They're popping up freaking everywhere. Yes, they are. Bass Raft. Occasionally underrated. Oh, I'm interested. I'd be interested in that rationale there. And Low Life. General Dollar and Walking Distance. Underrated. All right. This is interesting.
Little mixed bag on
it
that
is a
one.
mixed bag, and every once in a while I'll see a video out there like, hey, 6 fishing hacks from the Dollar Tree or something. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not watching it. Nice try. There's nothing from the Dollar Tree that I think I'd ever put on my fishing kayak, but oh well. All right, let's move to the next one. Underrated, overrated, Elastec.
I would say probably overrated.
Okay.
But I don't have a good reason for that. I like the Elastec stuff. I haven't had any better luck with it than I have anything else. They do last a little longer, but
yeah.
When it comes to soft plastics, I go through a lot of them.
You know what? I like the Elastec types. I did a video recently, June baits, and 2 of the baits in there were Elastecs. And Elastec is a copyrighted to Z-Man, and but it's the same. People have been copying it, same thing. But the pop frogs is I'm a big fan of because I like doing a kind of subsurface frog, and I put a weighted hook on those things, and so it is fun. And the great thing is they last freaking forever. So I like Z-Man. I don't like having to store everything separate because I often forget and I find a big congealed mess of my baits, or even if they touch each other for like an hour and I have a white bait and a darker bait, they leach really fast, like really fast. But I think I like them. I do, because I need to get some crawls or something like that they make, because I rip through jig crawls all the time. So I don't know. We'll see. All right, what we got here? We got overrated, Bassing with Big Balloon. Digs aptly rated, so properly rated there. Smoke 74 under. Bassin says, I don't like how they can't be mixed with the baits. Yep, perfect. Smoke 74 loves Z-Man. And Low Life Angler just goes off the rails, not even talking about what we're talking about. He likes Yamamoto and Big Joshies. I love it. I actually went to the Columbus Expo with him. We actually picked up some Big Joshies down there, and I'm a big Yamamoto fan too. Of course,
yeah.
There's no other worm out there that performs, in my opinion, like their 5-inch Senko. But I also love the Yamatunuki, which I've been slaying on recently here in Ohio. So, all right, let's move on. Underrated, overrated. Question number 4: Jimmy John's.
Jimmy John's, I'm going to say underrated because I happen to know a guy who owns a franchise.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. They Jimmy John's is good. I like it. I'm going to say they're underrated.
What do you order? I order the same thing when I go there every single time.
Italian.
That's Vito number 5, hot peppers, extra mayo, bag of chips, and then sometimes they have red cream soda there. But it's delicious. What? We're getting a ton of people over here. I don't know. Never had it. Never had Jimmy John's from Diggs. Never eaten there. Smoke 74. Who are you people? Maybe they're just kind of northeast Ohio, but you got them in Texas too.
Yeah, no, they're all over.
Right.
New Mexico, Texas. See them. I think I've seen a few in Colorado even.
Okay. Michael S. underrated. I think they're underrated. They're just delicious. And so if you have, Low Life, you're killing me. Overrated. Boo. I'll give you a collective boo from everybody listening in right now.
He's just not conforming today.
I know, right? He is. I am not your yes man. Calm down, Daren. Bassin says Subway and Firehouse. I like Firehouse.
Firehouse is good. Firehouse is good.
Subway. No, I don't think Subway and Jimmy John's. I think Jimmy John's wins every time. I don't know. Dick says we used to have one around here and they closed before I had a chance to try it. Next one closest to me is up. Yeah, it's like 2 hours away from him. and toasted is the best from Firehouse. Love it. All right.
Yep.
And the last question, underrated, overrated, live target.
I think it's rated about right. I mean, a live target is good, and it's definitely
No,
live
when I say
scope
live
and live
target,
target both.
I didn't mean live target. I meant live target the brand, like the lure brand.
Okay. Personally, overrated. I'm not gonna pay that much for those.
Yeah. I look at them and I sit there in the store and I'm like, those look delicious. I was like, why wouldn't a bass hit that? But every time I've tried fishing them, bass never hit it. So I feel like it's a brand that where they sit around. This is just my stupid opinion. They sit around. They're like, we're gonna take the angle of how can we sell the angler, right? Not who
Right.
cares about catching fish. How can we sell the angler on this thing looking as good as possible? I don't know. I feel probably every company does that, but I feel like that's what it feels like to me.
Well, we were just talking about the number one bait is a Senko. So, I mean, bass aren't that particular.
This is true. Very true.
Yeah.
Here we go. Mikey Grizz. Oh, he's back. Just went to a few other lakes, and sure enough, shading worked. Garmin Guru. There you go. So I think you figured it out. Yeah, I always see these at Ollie's. Live action is priced well at Ollie's, which really means they weren't being bought in another store. Is really what that means. I like live target sunfish topwater. All right, low life. I like it. Well, folks, that's been fun. That finishes up our really deep dive on fish finders, all the different. Hopefully, you learned something. I know I did. I look forward to signing up for Double T. Head over to Double T Fishing on YouTube if you haven't yet. Please hit that like button. It's free. Helps get a little extra yardage on this video after it's all said and done. But head over to Double T, give him a sub, especially if you have a Garmin unit, and head on down his description, and you can find out where you can get that cheat sheet on the settings. And so you can save yourself a lot of time of watching a bunch of videos. You have that all in one place. Rick, thanks so much for your time, brother. Hopefully you feel a little better.
I appreciate you having me, Daren.
No, it's been a pleasure. Maybe down the road sometime, we'll have to have you back on. And I wish you success in your YouTube journey. It's fun, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Hey, anytime, just give me a holler.
All right.
I'm retired now. I got plenty of time.
Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah. All right, folks. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I don't have a guest yet, so I need to go secure one of those. But 2 weeks to 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the Kayak Fishing Obsessed live show. You guys have a good one.